Welcome to Deep River Farm, folks. I appreciate you joining me this morning. I appreciate all of you that's been watching the video. I'm fired up about taxes. Well, I've got a follow-up here I thought was quite amusing to show you just how dumb and stupid these fees and permits and taxes and all this garbage is. And it goes to a story you may or may not have seen that's come across the wire. It's now an article in Newsweek magazine. And I thought this just fit perfect into the rant that we had about the taxes and how ridiculous they are, and just another way to gouge money out of hardworking people. And this one actually affects a somewhat known celebrity. And it's one of the producers of The Simpsons out in Los Angeles. Now, only in LA and California could something this dumb take place. And I wanted to share with you just another instance where the tax system, the bureaucracy, the red tape, the attempted power of the city councils, the wannabes in charge, the people that lets power go to their heads to do anything they can to make a name for themselves, is a prime example here in Los Angeles. And this is over a tree house. Yes, folks, a tree house. Now, this is not an ordinary tree house. This is a very nicely built 3-story tree house. Very nice. And it's very impressive. And it's been there for 24 years. And it has an adjacent tree house that's been there nearly 30 years. And between the two, they're in a fight against the city of Los Angeles. And it's over permit requirements, and it's ridiculous. And one of the requirements is they're trying to require the fella to make it compatible and be able to structure to be compliant with the Americans with Disability Act. Now keep in mind, folks, this is an individual homeowner. This is not a commercial place. This is not a public place. This is a tree house in the man's yard that he built for his daughters some 24 years ago, this really nice one. They had a prior tree house to that dates back 30 years, and he added on to it, combined the two, and made a really nice 3-story tree house for his daughters. Now, he's the producer of The Simpsons, so he's got quite a lot of money to start with, and he did a really nice job. And but it's even the neighbors are screaming and kicking about LA trying to make him demolish this because it's not compliant. They have deemed it non-compliant with building regulations. And he states in there that when the tree house was built, there were no regulations for a tree house. So this dispute, it comes at a time when the Democrat-run cities like LA face increasing blowback for how the residents have been treated. It says it's a bureaucratic regulatory approach. And, folks, we've been saying all this time that the only way that they can try to control us is through taxes and regulations and insurance costs to try to force people out. Now, we're going to be doing another story here in a little while that we're going to video about some information that pertaining to that. That's going to be giving you some information on the one of the relief centers in North Carolina. But I'll let you know that video's coming. Back to the tree house, though. Despite the popularity, the tree house has been the center of this legal dispute for a decade. Back in 2017, folks, the LA Department of Building and Safety issued a code enforcement violation against this fella for failing to obtain a building permit. Now keep in mind, there was no building permits to be needed back when the structure was built. So they're just basically after him to try to make him take it down and spend a bunch of money for inspections and electrical stuff and all kinds of stuff. So this fella has spent so far since 2017 over $50,000 in legal fees in an attempt to save the structure, but has now conceded that the financial burden is too great and it's just not worth it to fight City Hall. He's applied for a waiver from the building permit requirement, but has never received a response from the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety. There's a court trial set, folks, in March, and he has little hope his case will be resolved in his favor. You know, they're going to pay these judges and stuff. There's not judges anymore, folks. There are very few judges. Most of them are activists. That's what I call them. They twist and mangle the law any way they want to try to do what they want to fit the agenda of whatever it is they're after. He stated he's not going to spend another $30,000 in court for a treehouse. However, neighbors and many people, more than 6,000 people in the neighborhood, have signed a petition to save the structure, criticizing the city for making it nearly impossible for the fellow to bring it up to the city compliance codes. It's an iconic structure. It's been visited by a lot of celebrities. And it's in a Sherman Oaks neighborhood that's going to be gone for no reason other than bureaucracy. And the city has required this fellow to submit extensive documentation, including soil reports, structural designs, and Americans with Disability Act compliance, all of which is unnecessary and didn't exist 30 years ago when he built the original treehouse and then upgraded it to a 3-story structure 24 years later, and they're wanting all this documentation. Well, folks, I expect when you build something around a tree, you're not going to have an engineered drawing because a tree is not the same diameter in any direction up and down the trunk. So it's pretty much build it as best you can, square it off on the corners, and do what you can do. There's not going to be a structural engineering design for something like this. So they're just being stupid and dumb. You know, maybe their brains has been fried from too much sun out in Los Angeles and being exposed to the sun too much. Maybe the sun has damaged the brain. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it's a treehouse. And it's an existing treehouse that has been there for nearly 30 years. That's just crazy. So what's going to happen next? They've outlined 2 potential ways that this could go. The fella has. They either going to drop it through the city attorney, or the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety is going to issue him a permit waiver. And as of just this past weekend, it was still set for demolition because they can't beat City Hall. So folks, you heard me fired up about all these taxes and all these fees and all this junk. Well, here's a prime example of where a fella that's out there near and involved in Hollywood got plenty of money, and he can't even fight the bureaucracy and red tape of a bunch of stupid people on a city council. I appreciate you watching me, folks, on this morning on Deep River Farm as we're talking about some of this stuff and how ridiculous all this taxes and all these regulations and all these permitting and all this garbage, and all it does is put some money in somebody's pocket and channeled some way around, and it just makes a great big circle and comes back into some donor or some politician's pocket or some politician's family member, that ain't going to do any work at all, but they're going to get a fat paycheck out of it. And that's all this stuff's designed to do, and it's being proven day after day. Daily, we're seeing stuff on the news of where they're finding fraud and corruption, embezzlement, and everything else with our tax-paying money. And folks, here's a prime example of just plain stupidity. I appreciate you watching me today here on Deep River Farm. Y'all have a blessed day.